So I am Beth Mead. I'm from the Local Impact Alliance. I want to thank everybody for coming in tonight for our first Lunch and Learn Happy Hour. As I said, my name is Beth Mead. I'm the president of the Local Impact Alliance, and we've been doing these Lunch and Learns now for about 3 years. And this is our first happy hour. Normally we do these around lunchtime at either the Canton Township Hall, or we've done them at the Plymouth Library. We also do them at Westland City Hall, and we try and find interesting people doing interesting things. So great opportunity for us to partner tonight with Canton Brewery, celebrate their 10th anniversary, and introduce you to some of the people in our community doing great things. As you came in tonight, I gave you some information about next month, which will be held at Westland City Hall. We have a representative from the Canton, or from the Wayne Westland Credit Union, talking about cyber scams, specifically geared towards seniors. So if you or anybody you know wants to attend that, I'll be sending information to you soon. Now I'm going to pass it over to our Foundation Vice Chair, Dave Hammond, to introduce our speaker tonight. Thank you.
Thanks everybody for coming. The way, again, I've talked to most of you coming in, but run your tabs through the bar, the food service, put your orders in at the bar, and then any other beers that you want. The way it's going to work is we'll introduce Jeff here in just a second. He's going to take us on a quick tour of their operations here, and then he's going to walk us through the tasting of the 4 beers that we have in our flight. After that, feel free to order whatever you want. The food and drink, please order as much as you want. Hang out. We'll take questions if you have them for Jeff after his presentation, but it's very informal. So if you've got something on your mind, raise your hand. We'll take care of you. Want to thank you for coming out. It's our first, as Beth said, our first happy hour. So we got a great turnout. We got about 50 people here. So thank you for coming. And we wanted to come here because Jeff is becoming an institution here. Somebody that's active in the community, active in a lot of community events, a real pillar of the community, really. So we wanted to showcase what he's doing. A lot of you already know what he's doing, but a lot of you don't, including myself. I haven't been here. I live on the other side of town. So coming here is a new experience for me. And so that's kind of why we wanted to showcase what he's doing here. So he's been in the business since 2015. He's owned the winery next door, and then he's owned this place since 2020. He's a member of our community. He's experimenting. He's local, and he's always trying new things, and a great person to work with. So Jeff Cole is going to be taking note for you.
Well, actually, I'm going to say.
Oh, Pam's going to talk.
Hi, I'm Pam Batcho. I'm the Membership Development and Community Engagement Coordinator for the Canton Chamber of Commerce, and we partnered with the Local Impact Alliance to bring everybody here tonight, and I too want to thank you. Thomas Payton sends his regards. He unfortunately got some bad salmon last night, and he is home, so he would much rather be here, trust me. Jeff is going to go through everything with you. I wanted to point out a couple of important things. The ladies' room is to the back on the right. The men's room is to the back on the left. If you have any questions, you can ask Sierra or Jaden, the wonderful hostesses at the bar. And I'll be here for a little bit. I'm double booked tonight, so I have to run out to lead an Optimist Club meeting at 6. But thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it.
Well, we can't thank you guys enough. I know you've heard that 5 times, but truly you're the reason why we keep going. These small businesses, you guys are really important to that, so we really appreciate it. We're going to have some fun today, so I hope you're in the mood to drink a little beer or a little wine if you need it. We can do that too. But we do have the winery next door, which we've had. That place has been in business now for 20 years, this last December. The brewery now for 10 years, so 2004 range, 2005 is when we started, 2015 range is when we started. We took over 2020, so we're looking forward to sharing with you a couple of our beers that we put on the menu today. The first thing we're going to do before we get started with the tastings, though, they'll bring those out to you, or we may have you come grab them from the bar. I think whichever is going to be easier. It might be easier for us to serve them to you, but if we don't have the ability to do that, we'll have you go grab them. We'll see how it goes here. But the first thing we're going to do is we're going to have everybody stand up. We're going to head over to the brew area. If you don't want to, you don't have to. But if you'd like to learn more about the brewery, we're going to go through it, and we're going to walk through the whole process from ordering to how the beer's made, and then we're going to come back here and we're going to do some tasting. So. All right, so when we do a brew day, we start off with the brewer trying to pick out what we want, right? We're listening to customers' requests. We're hearing what we might need to brew. Now, obviously, most places that are serving any kind of beers, they're going to try to keep something from light body to medium body to something a little darker. That's typically the way it works. So that's the way our menu's set up now, and usually is. We try to keep it pretty balanced. We did have you guys try some ones we thought would be crowd pleasers today. Not necessarily just light to dark. There are some of that going on, but we didn't go all the way dark. We went kind of in the medium realm of things. So to start off, when the brewer gets his input from everybody, he's going to then put together a list of what's next on the list, and he's going to put together a bill of material. If you guys have ever been in the business, everybody knows what a bill of material is. It's basically a sheet that he orders at all of the beers. So he'll think 2-3 months in advance. He'll order all the supplies, which some of it's right here, not all of it, but some of it. And he'll order all those grains, he'll order the malts, he'll order all the hops, everything that he needs, bitters, all that good stuff. So when he puts this together, now he knows what he's gonna build, just like a recipe at home, right? No different. All right, so the next step is when he gets ready to brew, he's gonna take that brew list, he's gonna print it out, and he's gonna look and measure it all. So now he has to know exactly what's going in. He's gonna use a scale, he's gonna take all these bags, he's gonna pour them in buckets, and he's gonna make sure he gets his proper measurements. The next thing we do is we get the first tank over here. I'll step over here. This is the hot liquor tank. Did I go away, or you can still hear me?
Oh, you're good.
Okay, good. So this hot liquor tank, when it's on, it'll get to about 185 degrees to get it up to temperature, right? Once we get the water up in temperature, we have a control module here that's telling us where it's at. So we always know where temperature we're at. We also have gauges in the unit itself. In case something fails there, we got a backup safe. A backup safe. So we'll turn on this unit, get this all heated up, and then we'll bring all that water will come now into what we call the mash tun. The mash tun will come in here, it'll come in at 185, but when it comes in, it's gonna actually drop temperature a little bit because we're losing a little bit of temperature. Now we can heat this up as well, which we're doing, but we're gonna lose, there's what we call the strike temperature. That's what you want to have whenever you're gonna start brewing the beer and you're gonna go into the mash tun. You're gonna put that water in here, you're gonna start dumping all these grains that you see along here, and then there's different stages depending on the recipe as to when to put hops in and other things. I mean, if we're making a pumpkin stout, all those different things may go in at that area, right? If we made this squash pumpkin stout, you see up there, we put true squash in, we put true pumpkin in, and then we basically put all the grain in and all the malts, and then he takes these big old spoons, if I have one here, there's one here, these big spoons here, and he's mashing that in. So it's all hand done, all right? This is not fully automated. All right, so he's mashing that in, getting it real. The reason why you're doing that is because you're trying to you don't want lumps for one thing. It's like when you're making if you're making a cake batter or something like that, you don't want to have all those lumps and all that kind of stuff, or mashed potatoes. Some people like lumpy mashed potatoes, not me, but anyway, you don't want them lumps in there, right? So the bottom line is that he's mashing all that in, making sure there's no lumps or any grains sticking together. The more he mashes it, the more the sugar content comes out of the grain, all right? The more that happens, the higher the alcohol content, right? So it's really important for him to do a good job. He takes about an hour with that at least, all right? Then it goes from there, and we're gonna then hose it. It's gonna go through these hoses here that we set up, and it'll go from the mash tun to the boil kettle, all right? The boil kettle then is another hour. So all that grain, everything is gonna be left at the bottom of the mash tun. It doesn't come with it, it's only liquid, right? That will come over to here, and now we're gonna boil for an hour. Now there's other processes that we start dropping in things. We might start dropping in hops at either stage. I'll pass these around, you can smell them. This first one is one that we'd use, it's actually used on the Hefeweizen that you're gonna try today. So this hop, it's a German hop, it's used in that. This number 2 one is actually called Simicor. It's typically used in IPA or something like that. So you can take that one and pass it around. So smell those and you can smell it. To me, I grew up in southeast Colorado, spent a lot of time on a hay mill. We made these little pellets just like you're seeing being passed around. It reminds me of home, honestly. Because when I smell those pellets and the hay, any of these you smell, I love the smell. So some people don't like it, but it actually smells really good. When we're brewing on a day, when you come in here, you can definitely tell, you'll know it. It's like a bake shop, kind of like that. So after we get done boiling everything in here, we add all the different hops that we need to add and everything else that we need to add to it. Now we're gonna move from there, and we gotta run it through a heat exchanger. Now you all may not need to see it right now, but there's a heat exchanger that's right here. We'll take that temperature, it's at 150 maybe in that range, and we're gonna have to drop it now down to get it to a temperature where we can ferment it, right? So in order to do that, we actually take it through this heat exchanger and we have really cold water running through it, right? Sometimes through our chiller or whatever else we do. And we'll push that water through this heat exchanger, and when we do that, then it drops that temperature down in the fermenter, all right? So that's really important. So until we get it to a certain temperature, usually around 50 to 70 range, in that range, we're probably 50, 60, then we're gonna actually pitch the yeast, right? The yeast is then what turns that out, it turns the sugar level into the alcohol content. So that's where we go next, all right? So these are, you're doing steps 1, which is the hot liquor tank. You're doing step 2, which is the mash tun. Then you're taking it to a boil. Then you're bringing it to a boil for an hour. Then you're dropping it into the fermenters. But before we do that, we're running through this little heat exchanger. When you get a chance, you can stop by here and look at it. We'll hook all the hoses up to it. It'll run from that to here to then through to these big tanks. These are all fermenters. You have 1, 2, 3, 4 fermenters that we can have 4 beers at one time. As we drive it through here, we can have 4 being fermented at one time, all right? Each one of these, we usually, if we are running just a regular batch, through here we can fill 6 of these half-barrel kegs, typically, with a 3-barrel system. Now, these tanks hold 7 barrels, so truly we could do a double batch and hold 12 of those kegs plus, right? In one, it would be 2 cycles on that side, but 1 cycle on this side, all right? Question?
What determines you mentioned before ships actually control a little bit of the alcohol.
Yes.
Is that what you use to tweak that, or is it actually the fermenting process and how long it's?
If we want, so the mash tun and what we put in and how much we put in that grade determines the alcohol content, right? The other thing that could do that is we can add sugar to it as well, which just straight sugar, right? Like a sugar that you'd buy, right? Typically, that sugar then could drive up. Like for instance, let's take. There's one over there, if you look at it, it's called A-Train. One of our brewers that's a guest brewer that comes in every so often, not a regular brewer. He owned a brewery in Ann Arbor, then he worked out West Coast for one of the larger breweries. He wanted to kick up the alcohol content on that beer, so he took it up to a 14. The grains wouldn't necessarily get him there, but he adds that sugar to it. Now all of a sudden, he's hitting 14 on a beer. That's huge, right?
That's a nice game.
Yeah, that's a quad. We call it the Quadzilla, right? The A-Train and the Quadzilla were 2 that he brewed. So Quadzilla is the other one. So it was a Belgian quad. So when they say double quad is not as strength, triple quad. If you hear of a Quadzilla or a quad beer, that's 4 times the strength. So it's heavy duty. So yeah, you'll definitely know it. I have to honestly say though, that beer, you didn't necessarily taste all the alcohol. It was so well done that you didn't taste much alcohol in it. Yes, that makes it dangerous. That's with wine too sometimes, right? All right, any other questions? IPAs, yes.
Could you just explain it?
Sure. So we have one that we're going to try today called a West Coast IPA, and then we have an American IPA, basically, right, or American Pale Ale, right? So both of them have a little bit of hops. American Pale Ale is typically a little bit less in the hops, and the West Coast is typically a little bit higher in the hops. So the one that, and typically you know that by flavor. West Coast is going to be more tropical and more fruity type of hops, and a regular APA is going to be a little bit more not as hoppy, but more like a Civicore or something like that's going to go in it, right? It's going to be a lot less hoppy typically. And then there's also we call one that we make is called a District 9. That one's going to be a New England IPA, right? So that's a little different as well. So there's basically 3 styles that we make here, which is the West Coast, a standard American Pale Ale. We don't have one of those for you to try today, but one of our flagships is basically the Shakedown. If you ever had it here, that's an American Pale Ale, and we do it all the time. It's something we usually keep on tap. We just kicked it this weekend. We were super busy on Friday and Saturday, thankfully, but yeah, it was really busy, and we blew through all that. So we'll be making it again soon. It's something we usually keep on tap most of the time. So this whole process, typically, we're gonna do all this process in a day. Then we're gonna throw it into these fermenters, depending on when it hits temp to when we need to pitch the yeast. Typically, again, that's gonna be somewhere between 50 and 60, maybe a little bit higher if we have to, but then it takes about another 10 to 14 days or so, at least. If we're lagering something, which we do have a lager going right now here, this is an amber lager. It's not the one that everybody knows and loves, which is our Admiral Ambar. That's a little different. We don't always lager that one. But this one's an amber lager. And we should have that out next week, but that takes another, in your lager and stuff, you typically want to go from 3 to 6 weeks, right? So somewhere in there, right? We could do a little bit, typically not less than 3, and we can go more than 6 if we need to.
How do you rotate through different ones?
You know, we try to do that as often as, the more you guys come to support us, the quicker we can get through them. So the message, the moral of the story is come visit us, come see us. No, the answer is we try to keep them going all the time. And we're always flipping beers. I mean, we've got, this week we brought on HK Hard Ale, which is a resemblance of Two Hearted, right? We brought on, we just kicked, we also brought on the El Dorado, which is called Lowrider. That's the West Coast IPA. We brought on Jazzy J's, a German Hefeweizen. So all 3 of those came on within the last week. So we keep flipping them as best as we can. But the more you come see us, the more we can turn the beers, right? Anybody else? Yes.
How long does it take you to turn around one of the bags to clean it out?
You know what? He's pretty good about it, but when we're cooking on all cylinders, it'll take him a good day to get through a couple of those to get them cleaned out right. So it does take some time. We do have to shovel it all out, yep, especially on the mash tun, right? So that's the biggest work, right? And then we typically, if anybody knows a farmer, we're a little lagging right now. Typically that grain, that spent grain, goes to a farmer for pig feed. You can make dog treats out of it. You can do all kinds of cool things, but it's really important to, right, so we don't like to throw that stuff out of because there's farmers could really use it. We are looking for another farmer. We've had a couple, but sometimes it's hard for them depending on where they're at to get out here and get it. So if you know somebody, let us know.
How do you choose your recipes? And how do you actually come up with, love the names.
That's a great question. Yeah, so a lot of times a head brewer likes, that's where that's all fun for them. That's what they thrive on, right? Is to try to figure out what our customer base likes, right? And how do we tweak what we currently do, right? A little bit, or should we just try something all from scratch, right? We do a little bit of all that. There's about 4 or 5 beers, Shakedown, Admiral, the black IPA that we've been doing lately. There's a Good Vibes is on a lot right now. Tamarin's on a fair amount. And then we have this new one that we made just recently called Mella's Mexican Lager. She's our chef back there, right? Mella's Cantina. We put a Mexican lager on it. It blew out her faster than any beer we've ever made, probably, right? So that'll be the 5th one that we put on all the time. Now to get back to your question is, the brewer puts all that information together and then we talk about it, probably once a month or more often than that if we need to. He'll pick all the recipes for the next, again, 3 to 4 months, and we'll decide based on customers' input. Typically, Mud Club members, we're asking them, any of them will tell you, they said, hey, we want to see this one back. We want to see this one back, right? So we listen to them a lot, and we're putting on a lot of what they're telling us. But then every once in a while, he'll want to do something fun that he's not done and we've never had here before, and he wants to do something fun. So we allow him to do that all the time, anytime he wants to.
We got
One more question.
the winter wheat. It tastes a lot like Bell's Best Brown.
Oh, okay.
Are a lot of the recipes trademarked?
We don't necessarily trademark them. We could do that, especially the names of the beer, and then after that's the recipe. We don't always do that because one, it's time consuming. 2, there's a cost associated with that. Honestly, if we made something that we're going to take to market and mass produce it, we would do that for sure. But we're serving mostly the local community. We live for you all, and it's not to say that we wouldn't do that. We have some beers out there right now. We have a beer at the Embassy Suites right now. We have some beers at a couple other places, but we really don't focus on that. We focus on the customers that are here.
Larger batch operation.
Yes, that's right. We're a smaller nano type brewery. It's not to say that we couldn't get there if we wanted to, but we really like, most are good. There's a whole different story to all that stuff. So you got to take that a little bit at a time. So we definitely have the ability to do it, but it's not in the next year or so plan, maybe in 3, 5, possibly. Yep. Anybody else? Are we ready to go back and do some tasting? All right, let's go drink some beer. All right, folks, so we've got 4 beers in front of us. Everybody should have them. There's an order here, and I will try to get it in the right order for you. So the first one is Good Vibes. Hopefully they put these with a dot. You should have a dot on the side of your... There's a dot on the side of like right here, if you look right on the side of it, there's a little dot. That one should be your number 1. That should be Good Vibes. Let me see if it is. It tastes like it. Let me see. Yeah. So that number, that where your dot is number 1. So that's going to be good vibes. Let me tell you a little story about this. I think there's a gentleman sitting on the other side of the bar here. He lives here in Canton, and he also has a band here in Canton. They're called the Secondhand Mojo, and they were releasing a new video and a single, and it's called Good Vibes, and that's where this beer came from. Is they both are Mug Club members. The two of the guys that came in said, "Hey, look, we'd like to create a beer. We'd like to release it. We want to do our set here when the video gets released. We'd love to play here, and then create a beer, and then when we go on the road, they're going to take it with them," type of deal, right? So they're doing really, really well, to say the least, and they're in a bunch of shows. If you ever have a chance to look them up or go see them, highly recommend it. But that beer, we have a sign for it, and it basically all they signed it for us when they came out and did the video. But they had a whole stage set up in here, and it was a couple feet high, and we had the whole place packed, and it was a good time. So it's good to know that they're Mug Club members. We get to support them, they get to support us, and it's a good beer. So a cream ale, what is a cream ale? Basically looking at, when we release this stuff and we talk about that, it's a lighter body beer. Kind of reminds me of a little bit of a Pilsner if you think of it, right? So lighter body beer. It's got subtle sweetness to it. It's low in hops, not much bitterness, and it's pretty smooth to the mouthfeel when you drink it. So it reminds me personally of, if I say, it's not a Miller Lite because that's more of a Pilsner, but it's more of a creamy flavor, flavor profile, where that's more of a lager. This is not lagered. So I'm getting more of a mellow mouthfeel if it's being or creamy. That's why they call it cream ale. But so that's number 1. Let's talk about, number 2. This is Jazzy J's. So a lot of our beer names, as the first one has a story behind it, most of them do have a story behind it. They're kind of fun to hear.
Yeah, do we go to the right or to the left?
You should go to the left. Yep, left, sorry, thank you. Appreciate you pointing that out. Number 2 is to the left. So it should be, that's clockwise, right? Does that make sense? Or is that counter? Counterclockwise, there you go. Gotta straighten me out up here. I'm not drinking too much already. Oh, it is clockwise. Oh, there you go. All right. I thought I was drinking too much. Shoot. All right. So the next one's Jazzy J's. We have all kinds of stories behind each of these. So Jazzy J's, Jaden behind the bar tonight. We name beers after a lot of the employees, or we come up with ideas because of a movie or whatever it might be, right? So Jazzy J's is for Jaden. It's a German Hefeweizen. It's like a blonde color, typically hazy, right? So like some people know what a hazy IPA is. This beer is typically hazy. A lot of times when it's served with a lemon sometimes, or an orange or something like that. It's got 100% variant wheat in it, a wheat malt, and a dash of this special German hop that we use, which actually you smelt today. It's one of the ones you smelt. And then it's got a little bitterness, but not much. Very, very little in the hop. And to me, the characteristics that I get from this beer, somehow I get like a banana. I don't know if you guys get banana or not, but I get banana. And I get almost a clove. It's not like a pepper flavor, but it's more of a clove type of flavor. Yeah, you get it? So it's pretty good. This is like, both these first two are more like a summer easy drinking. If you want to drink a lot of beers, like when we have darts like on Tuesday nights, these guys want to drink a bunch of beers, so the alcohol content is quite a bit lower. These first two, the first one's at 5 and the second one's at about 4.9. So the first one's 5% ABV. And then we'll go to the next one real quick here. Next one, again, it should be to your right of the last one. This one's called the El Dorado, the Low Rider. So our brewer named this one, and he kind of liked it because the hop that we use in this, one of the hops, is an El Dorado. So he thought, let's call it an El Dorado. I said, oh, that sounds kind of cool. Let's do that. So you're going to get a lot of hop from this one. It's a West Coast IPA. Typically with this one, it's inspired As we talked about, it has really pretty heavy hops in it, so we call it stern hops. It's got a bit of bitterness to it. It's definitely citrus and tropical, which we talked about on that side. So typically a West Coast IPA is going to have all that going on in it, and this one definitely does. And then a little bit of honey and neutral grain finish, so it kind of softens it on the back end of the palate, if you will, right? So let's give this one a try. Yeah, there's a lot of hop to it. Yeah, I mean, if you don't like hops, this one's not going to be your favorite, right? Some people are like, when you're used to drinking Coors Light, Miller Light, and all those Bud Light and all those, this doesn't do it for you because it's just tastes different, right? Your palate takes a long time to adjust this kind of thing. It's like drinking red wine when you like sweet wine, right? It's real dry and your mouth puckers up. We serve a lot of these IPAs. The APAs and IPAs, we serve a ton of them here. That's most of what we sell on the menu. Next one is the Buffalo Brown. Should be the darkest one, and the next one to the right. So Buffalo Brown is a local favorite. We do this quite often, and maybe 4 times a year at most, I'd say. At best, I'd say. It's got a malty flavor. It's got notes of caramel and chocolate, and then you got a medium dark colored beer, which you can't really see with these glasses too well, but at least you get an idea of what to expect there. And it's going to have nutty and toasty flavors on the back end, in my opinion. That's what I get from it. So give a little smell. In wine, it's not much different than beer. We didn't talk about that, but when you're drinking wine, the reason why you swirl the wine is you're opening up the body, right? Temperatures of beers are really important, what you serve them at. Typically, most of our stuff's coming out of the cooler, so we're serving them at about 40, 42, 44, in that range. But it does make a difference of the notes that you get from the beer or the wine. So when you smell it, typically when you smell stuff, it opens up your palate, right? So you smell it, and what you smell is what you taste. It's not as easy with the beer because it is chilled a bit more. Usually our fruit wines, we're serving at like 50, and the regular wines we're serving at like 55, like the reds and stuff like that. More room temperature, like 55, 60. So it does make a difference. If you ever let a beer kind of cool down a little bit and it gets a little bit warmer, you're probably going to get some bigger notes out of it, usually. That's typically what happens. That's why a lot of beers in Germany, when they serve them at room temperature, that's the reason why. It's because they want to give you more flavor for your beer. Let's talk about a couple other things that we do. Some other beers, if you guys want to try them, I'll mention a couple that we have on tap right now. One of the cool ones is the Tamarind Diaz. It's actually, if you ever Google it, you'll find out it got named one of the top 100 names in the entire country of beers. So that's kind of a cool thing. And the Tamarind Diaz, we actually take tamarind paste. We go to a local shop right here in Canton. It's the Indian store, Bombay's or whatever. I forget the exact name of it, but it used to be the old jewelry store. And we get the paste and we put that, one of them goes in the boil and 2 go in the mash tun, or sorry, opposite. 1 in the mash tun and 2 in the boil kettle. And when we make that beer, this paste actually gives it a sweet tamarind taste. And then we hit it for like a week with pepper flakes, Indian pepper flakes. And it really makes it nice. So if you want to try it today, it's a bit spicy. But the one thing we can do typically is we call it tango. We'll hit it with a little bit of a mango juice, which is a concentrate, which then allows you to get like what we call tango, a little bit of sweet and spicy, right? So you're doing a tango, you're doing a little sweet and spicy. But it's actually a really good beer when you do that. So if you don't like it spicy and you want to tone it down just a little bit, ask them to hit it with a little bit of mango nectar, and it'll draw it down for you to where you just like it just right. And then you'll learn, hey, every time you come in, you're going to say, I want it 60-40, or I want it 40, whatever you want it, right? So you can dial it up or down however you like your flavor profile. The other thing we will be doing that we haven't done quite yet is we will be putting seltzers on. They've always been popular for the last many years. We're going to have pumps where you can pump your flavor in. We'll know how many pumps you like as you come in. We'll learn that, right? So if you like a seltzer, we'll have that. We do have slushy machines on both sides. So we typically have this one's a margarita on this one. Our wines go in it, so it's about a gallon of wine to the mix of whatever slushy we're putting in it. So those are really good while you're here. If you want to try those at some point, come do some tasting of those. What other beers can we talk about? Let me look at our list real quick. Oh, so a couple other fun names. HK Hardell is named after my daughter, Hannah Culp. That's a spin-off of the 2 Hearted Ale. It tastes a lot like it. There's a little joke when she was a young girl and growing up. We used to teach her how to draw a heart, and so we draw an upside, draw an M and then we'd put like a little X so that she understood 2 letters, and they would make the heart. So when we first came out with it, I wrote the heart the way we used to do it, the way she learned how to do it when she was like, whatever, 3, 4, 5, whatever it was. And I sent it to her in a picture, and I said, we got a new beer. And she's like laughing, right? She's like, oh, that's pretty funny. So she has not, unfortunately, she has not tried it yet, but I'm hoping this time when it came out, she'll be here to try it. So I hope that happens this week. So that's a fun story behind that one. We made another one. My dad passed away in 2008, and one of my really dear friends back home, his name was Todd. He helped us get the house sold. He helped us buy his truck. He bought it. So it made life a little easier for us. And we named a beer after him. We always drank Pilsners a lot when we were younger, and when he was still alive. And so we named the beer Todd Father. So Todd being my good friend and of course my father. So there's always good names. It's always good to know what you're drinking and why you're drinking it. There's always a story usually behind it. Not every time, but most of the times there is a pretty good story behind it. So just a couple fun bits of information. Anybody got any questions while you're doing that? Any beers that you liked? Any beers you want to try?
I like the Elk.
Yeah, thumbs up. So you like IPAs? Yes.
Do we do any sours?
We do sours. We have a series of them, but we've shied away from them recently because there's a lot of work involved on our brewer side. So we will do those. Typically in the summertime, we'll knock those out. Not normally during the winter, but we will do one of those again for sure. So there's a couple different kinds of sours that we can do, and we'll probably do both of them. But the brewer loves doing sours that we have now. By the way, I want to give kudos to our brewers. Hope you guys like what you're drinking today, but he's a really good, yeah. His name is Jake. He's unfortunately with his family out of town right now. He's from the Tennessee area. He came to us about, 3 months ago or something like that. And he's just done a phenomenal job. Honestly, we've had really good brewers here over time. And so we're really thankful for that. But I think he's doing an outstanding job and really appreciate his efforts. So even though he's not here today to hear it, we still want to give him a thanks for all the efforts that he puts in for us. I do every once in a while make a beer myself. Actually, this Hefeweizen that you're drinking, I made. I made the Tamarind the last time around. Honestly, it's really good this time around too. Both of them have been really good. So I do get a chance to brew every once in a while. I spend more time on the winery side because I need it over there more than I am over here. But I do make a little bit of both, and it's a lot of fun. So I enjoy it. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Do you know what the IBUs?
We can tell you for most of them. Off the top of my head, I wouldn't know that, but there's a little QR code on the tables, most of them, not all of them. We can scan that QR code. It'll bring up Untapped, and on Untapped, it'll tell you what the ABV is of it, and it'll also tell you what the IBUs are. Typically, put that in there. I would say, yeah. I'd hate to guess. I mean, I know that the Pale Ale, which one is it? Is that the?
It's the Eldorado.
Eldorado would be about 6.3 in alcohol content. IBUs, do we put it in there? It may or may not. We try to put them in there, but we don't always have them. I could always get them for you pretty easily, though. Yeah, it's usually.
How high is it?
Yeah.
Those are up like.
Yes. 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 Yeah. I could go on the brewer sheet and tell you if you just give me a minute when we get done here. I'll check it out for you. Yep. Anybody else? Think we're good? All right. Well, I'll round it off with a couple other things just to say thanks once again. A little bit about the brew. We do a lot of fun things on Tuesday nights. We do dart leagues. So if you know anybody that wants to substitute or start a team, we'll sponsor you. It's only for us about $300 to $400 to sponsor a team for a season. We have 2 seasons. It only takes 4 players, and you don't have to be really good or anything like that. They have different levels, level 3 to level 1 being the best. We have 2 teams that we sponsor right now. We've sponsored up to 4 teams depending on the league, but we're always up for helping sponsor teams. The more people we can bring in on those nights, the better off we'll be. We can sponsor really up to 4 at least. So we are down 2, we could use 2 more. So if you think of anybody that knows to play darts, send them on our way. Whether they're single or they have a team, either way, we'll help them. That's Tuesday nights. Wednesday nights, tonight we'll have euchre. So right at 7 o'clock, they'll start coming in as you guys start working your way out. And then Thursdays is trivia night. So if you like to play trivia, do trivia. And then on Fridays, we do open mic comedy, which is pretty fun. We typically get between 15 and 30 comedians that come in, and they get 5 minutes. So if anybody wants to try their hand at being a comedian, it's open mic. You can just go for it. It's pretty cool. We get some really good ones, and we get some. It's like karaoke, right? You get some really good ones, and you're like, oh God, help me, right? It's okay though, because we all start somewhere. It doesn't matter whether you start on the bottom end or the top end. You got to work your way up, right? So we do get a lot of really good ones. We have a really good host. His name's Ned, and also a gentleman that hosted it for a while. Ned is actually, I think he wrote for Jay Leno at one point in time. So he's a pretty solid guy. He's in Ann Arbor, and he knows a lot of folks in the business. So he drums up some pretty good. Those are some busy nights for us on Fridays typically. So they do well. We also on Saturdays do usually, most of the time it's live music. So we'll do blues and jazz. Actually on the 29th, the gentleman I was telling you about that's in Good Vibes, his son actually does electronic music, right? So you're making your own music. He's actually got an album he's releasing soon. We're bringing in 2 guests. They're almost like a DJ, if you will, but they create all their own music, and it's pretty amazing. I've only heard a little bit of his stuff thus far, but he's going to be here on the 29th. So if you've never heard electric music and you want to hear it, come in and check it out. It should be a fun night. I think we'll pack the house, so it should be pretty fun and interesting. But he's going to release his first album on the 29th. So most of the time, though, it's rock, it's blues, it's jazz, stuff that easy listening that you can come in and just enjoy, have a beer. And if you like to chat during all that, I would suggest to sit on that side, because it can get a little out of the side, but we can always turn it down for you a little bit if you don't mind. And I think that's pretty much it. Sundays, we're going to start doing Sunday Fun Day for Mug Club members. We do a lot of pinball tournaments on those days as well. Usually those start at 2, so if you know anybody that plays pinball, they do fun stuff. Like one time they'll do where like husband and wife can come in, one person does, it doesn't have to be husband and wife, it could be friends. But one person runs one flipper, the other person runs the other flipper. So it makes it more challenging, right? So it's not just somebody who's really good that can control everything. You got to work with a partner to try to make this happen. So we do all kinds of fun events on the pinball side of it too. For the Muck Club members, we're going to do Sunday Fun Day. We're going to also start letting them make a beer with us. So we're going to have a drawing to where they can put their name in a hat. Once you put your name in a hat, you draw it, you get to come and make a beer with the brewer, and you get to pick what that is. So we'll be doing some fun things on Sundays. We'll probably also mix in some karaoke on Sundays, because a lot of our Mug Club members like to do some karaoke. So we'll do that as well. But we have a lot of exciting things going on, and a lot of fun things that we currently do, and a lot of new things that we're working on. Any other questions, everything else, I'm going to say goodbye. I appreciate you all so much. And cheers, right, to everyone. To your health, to your happiness, and God bless you all. Cheers.